so glad we always start the show with laughter. Welcome. I am Jonnita Stanton, and we have Reginald Perryman, Kashka Williams, and we are TSARE. This is the There's Something About Real Estate podcast, where we talk all things real estate. And we're going to be talking about investor mistakes when buying in Detroit. I don't make them, so I don't know what they're talking about. And keep in mind, I got TikTok videos stuck in my head, so I might break out and dance.
All right.
Go ahead, Reg. You can start it off.
Oh, I gotta start it off.
I mean,
first,
so I got a lot of. So this is like a thing for me. This annoys me.
So what made me?
If I grab a pen?
No.
So what made me? Damn, you gotta take notes.
Right.
So this is what really made me want to talk about this topic too, because like I seen it's like several videos on YouTube about this, right? And people like, oh, I'm in Detroit and I couldn't collect my rent, and I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, or the city gone to shit, and all type of stuff, right? And I'm like, damn, I get that, but what Detroit are you talking about, right?
What did you do to cause
And what
that?
did you do? So a lot of people, your investment strategy, based on what you were trying to do, wouldn't have worked nowhere.
Period.
Right? So I had an investor from California one time call me, and they always be like, well, yeah, I want to invest in Detroit. I want to be part of the comeback. And I'm like, no, the hell you don't. You want to make money.
Money, period.
Let's be honest. If you really wanted to be part of the comeback, you would move here. Let's be honest. Then he called me and he was like, well, what is it like? I see this house for $15,000. I see this house for $20,000. And I'm like, dude, you could have brought that in Trona, California. And it's like, have you ever heard of Trona, California?
I have not.
So Trona, its house is like, it's like a shell of a house for like $15,000. So when we think of California, we think everything is $300,000, $400,000 and up. But you know, they got like these little desert towns and stuff. Like, you can't even use the water there, right? All the grass is dead. They school football field is damn near sand.
Damn.
So it's like, dude, you flew all the way here. You looking all the way here to buy a $15,000 dump that you got to put $80,000 into. You could have did that in Trona. So it's like people come in from out of town. They overlook what's in their own backyard. Now, true, your money can go longer in the Midwest, whether it's Michigan or Ohio. But I'm like, man, I'll be looking at, when they come, I look at they other cities. People always assume all of Michigan is Detroit.
Right.
Somebody called me and was like, well, how's the water there? I'm like, nigga, Detroit has
Great
some
Lakes.
Detroit has some of the best, has one of the best water facilities in the country.
Water.
Right?
Yeah.
Flint, a lot of these cities, they got off of the Detroit water supply. That's why they were having those issues, right?
Money.
So, was it like Desert Springs, California or something? All their water was contaminated because it was like some rocket fuel plant or something. But and this wasn't like Flint had a water crisis. This was their normal way of life.
Yeah, when I visited California when I was 19 or 20,
right?
LA.
Yeah.
We couldn't. My aunt was like, "Don't drink." They had gallons of water in the house to drink and brush their teeth with.
Or they don't want you to flush the toilet.
They was in Mexico.
Yeah. No, it's parts of LA you go to and they be like, only flush the toilet if you do number 2.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, so when outsiders come here or out of towners come here and they tell me where they're from, I can almost, in most of the states, I can point out cities that are worse than what they're looking at here in Detroit. Or the price points, not everywhere has a $20,000 home, but there's a lot of places. And when you think about that state as a whole, you don't think about it. The issue, out-of-towners come here and think everything Detroit. I had an investor, I found him a property in Oak Park, a probate deal, $75,000, 3-bedroom brick.
Damn.
Right?
Well,
he was like, oh, but, how about the $30,000 homes right here? And he kept giving me these lists of these $30,000 properties in Detroit, right? To him, Oak Park and Detroit the same. I'm like, dude, Oakland County is one of the richest counties in the country. So why wouldn't you buy there where the median income is almost double for $75,000? And I mean, he walked away from the deal, and I brought it. That was my last.
What do you feel like the expectations are though for those $30,000 houses versus the $75,000 houses? I mean, so $30,000 in Detroit versus $75,000 in Oak Park.
Right.
It's what I compare it to. So, when everybody was buying GameStop and AMC stock, and it's like, or people buy penny stocks, it's like, okay, I can gamble on this because it's not a lot of money to lose. So when people buy a $10,000 home, they're not realizing it still needs $50,000 worth of work. It's not $50,000. So just because a stock is low and it may go up or it may double, it's still a shit company.
They still trying to hit the lottery.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, so for me, I feel like the biggest mistake that any inexperienced investor makes, or sometimes now, because the inexperienced investor has messed the market up, so now even the experienced investor is making these mistakes.
Right.
Is one, not having a real model. You don't even know what you want. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what return you're looking for. You don't know what your strategy is. You don't know nothing. You just want to go, who the hell comes? I don't go into stock and say, I want a penny stock. You know what I mean? I want a penny stock that's going to increase. Right. So when you can't come to Detroit or anywhere and say, I want a $10,000 house. Right. All right, you go get the $10,000 house. Like you said, you got to put $80,000 into it. That's how much it's worth. Right. So it might not be worth that. It may not even be worth that, right? Yeah. So now you didn't have a strategy. You went and bought that $10,000 house, and now you lost. Yeah. Right? Which happens in any investment industry. Whatever you invest, any investment that you do, whether it's art, music, stock, whatever, what you was going to say.
So what's the mistake, though?
Not having a strategy.
Okay. Yeah, that would be mistake number one. Because so many people call and be like, I want to buy this house. Well, what do you want to do? Are you looking to buy and hold, or are you buying and flipping? They say, well, it depends. Depends on what. Right. Like, well, I got enough cash to do this. Well, you want to buy and hold. So figure out your strategy first. So people just come in it without no real plan, and they have like real high expectations for a low price point.
So I want to talk about, I'm going to bring it up, even though we ain't been. We'll still do it.
Too, I want to say this, though. I have to be honest. When people come here to invest, and I'm not talking about for the average person, it's reasons. If we're investing, we're in real estate, there are investors here, there's people with money here. There's a reason we didn't buy that $10,000.
Why is it still there?
Yeah.
It's still there for a fucking reason.
You think you came from California and got it, and the people that live here in this state and in the city didn't get it?
Unless you me, and you driving past it, and you like, because I done had like 2 or 3 of them properties, and I done hit, Shaka has been in the mix since then. And I get in front of the house, Memorial was one of them. Right. And I'm like, did anybody? Like, I'm like talking to myself in the car. Like, has anybody else seen this? Like, why is it still on the market? And I'm looking at the house.
But it was still a gamble.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But I can say this on the flip side. Sometimes an out-of-towner will look at something through a different lens. Yeah. Because we all thought Belle Isle water was dirty when we was little, so we didn't swim there. Out-of-towners come and jump in it. Man. Like, y'all got a whole island.
That's the beach.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes their vision takes these properties further than what we see them as. But overall, for the most part, the average neighborhood house is $10,000, $15,000. My contractors invest. I invest. Everybody around me invests. It's hundreds of people here that invest. There's a reason that some of these houses are still sitting. Yeah. And then we know all the city bureaucracy you got to deal with. We know all the ins and outs. We know what type of tenants you're going to attract, so it's not worth it. And they think like, oh, it's still there, it's a gem. Those people don't know what they're doing. So you come and buy it, and you like, what are you going to do so much different than I did with my other 80 properties?
Well, look, you come and buy it, and then your house get broken in 5 times. They take your furnace twice, and you know what I mean? So now you mad, and you say, damn, that's a horrible area to go invest in. What
then you judging.
But now it is such. So right now we are in that question, well, what Detroit is that? Because the crazy thing is currently, that's not really Detroit anymore. Now, some parts I will still agree.
Shit.
But no, when we're talking about some of the areas where we have been investing at, like I have been shocked that we have not had. I mean, I'm talking about like being an investor in 2004 and 5 and understanding like if I don't have dogs or security or a dog on my property, like an actual DOG dog, like, you know, my mechanicals are going to be missing. But we've had some properties where we have failed to go ahead and order our security and we had no problem.
But copper theft, there was a lot of cities and states across the country that had those same issues, right? But I think one of the things people don't realize is people just don't understand. When we go invest in different cities, you got to understand the culture of that city.
Yeah.
Right? You got to when they put out median income reports for a reason, that city I mentioned earlier, Desert Springs, California, whatever, like 1 in every 4 houses is vacant and abandoned. You see what I'm saying?
But,
so
the question I would say is if that's still currently the space that those, like what is, I mean, is there an asset there in that community that people aren't paying attention to? So one of the things that you said was when we were growing up, we thought Belle Isle water was dirty.
Right.
But if you said when you grow and you mature and you start to think about, okay, you know, what do I actually have here in the city?
Right.
I have pure water. I have an island. I have all type of lakefront or waterfront property, whether we're talking commercial property or residential property. We have condos in the harbor off marinas. We take those things for granted. So the question that I would ask investors is, what are they taking for granted in their own cities that they've grown up in?
I'm going to say something because I'm not from Detroit.
Right.
So, Jonnita, so I pay attention to every little thing when I'm in Detroit, right? And she may take that for granted, but I don't. So you're talking about the areas that we invest in when you're surprised that we didn't get break-ins. And the crazy thing is the one area that you would have thought we wouldn't have got break-ins is the only area that we had break-ins in. You know, Grandma's was the only time we had a break-in in our entire 6-year run. We've been in way worse areas than Grandma.
We was right at Wheels, on the corner of Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
So he may have thought, but...
Yeah.
Well, hold on. If you go to an area and there's residents, there's no vacant house. You know, there's not vacant. Everybody is taking care of their yards. Everybody is out. Got cars and, you know what I mean? This is a working class area. So you don't expect people to break in the house, and you expect if somebody does break in the house that somebody's going to see them, hear them. Police is going to come.
Class on that furnace.
Yes.
Right, exactly. But what I get, so the difference is we're talking about area. So if I tell Reggie what the thing that we were closest to, you know exactly the situation we were in. No,
because Memorial is in the worst. It don't matter because the reality is every other area that we was in was worse. Memorial was a worse area than Grandma.
That's what I'm talking about. So which one Memorial is Grandma. So which one are you talking about?
Nobody broke in Memorial. I'm talking about Artesian. We had 3 break-ins on our. We had cameras and everything. They didn't care.
So Artesian was just 1 block north of Wheels.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
It was. Memorial was one. Okay.
Okay, Memorial and Artesian is 2 totally different areas.
Give them the address. One block south of Schoolcraft or one block north of Schoolcraft.
First of all, no, that's not true. And because it's not 1 block. Because Artesian is and Memorial.
Those neighborhoods are a little bit slightly different.
Way different.
But this is the thing, though, right? Sometimes people won't break in because the area looks like it's nothing there. Right?
Yes.
And look at the address.
This is a little different, but not that much of a difference,
hold on.
right?
But listen,
so we're wheels at from both of these.
Hold on, this one further north, but this further south.
Hold on, what she's saying is, listen, this is what I'm saying. So I'm an out-of-towner as far as Detroit is concerned.
Right.
So, and I'm from Pontiac, so I have like common sense.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not
street sense.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I understand where we at. I know when we went to Highland Park, I knew what the fuck was going on. I wasn't surprised.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I had to test the area first. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And knock on wood, in Highland Park, because when anybody hears that we're in Highland Park, they be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Until you in Highland Park, then they be like, I'm glad you fixing the house up.
Yes. Right. But even yes. But the point is that we haven't, knock on wood, had any issues in Highland Park.
Right.
We didn't have any issues at Memorial.
Right.
We didn't have any issues at any of the other houses.
Right.
Because now I can go there, and use common sense and understand the area that we in and determine the amount of danger that we in for break-ins.
But I think that what was happening was we were at a curve. So remember, Artesian was the first one. So that was the furthest away in time in terms of where we've progressed from since then.
Right. Mm-hmm. But Shaka brought up a point. So like understanding the neighborhoods, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, I think where a lot of out-of-state investors get clouded on this is because, like, when you come from an area, let's just take, for example, let's take a city here like a Farmington, right? You go into Farmington, you go into different neighborhoods, it's pretty much consistent. Mm-hmm. You see, like, some consistency there. You see the level, the pride of ownership is pretty much the same, right? But in some of these other areas, like several cities are like that, right? So when you're in Detroit, you can almost say we got like several cities within it. Like every neighborhood is a different city.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand the culture, like people joke about East Side and West Side, but there's certain pockets of each where the culture of that neighborhood is different. The income levels are different. The people that grew up there got a different mentality. And maybe there was just a different way of doing things over there. You know what I'm saying? This was the end thing for this neighborhood, right? Versus this neighborhood. So when out-of-towners come, they just try to put this blanket over everything.
The whole city is too big.
So it's like, oh, I'm not gonna buy the house in Palmer Woods because everything gonna get stolen out of there. Well, that's not likely like what over here. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different. It's a different culture in every neighborhood, whereas some states is different per city or different per zip code, and they don't see that variety in this small area. So
that's what I just had to try to explain to one of our money investors.
Right.
Because he wasn't as interested in the Stansbury house as he was in the Ardmore house.
Right.
I asked him, what's the difference?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for him, you know, he had his reasons as to why he thought it was different. So what I had to tell him was, I said, well, I grew up in Detroit.
Right.
And so I'm looking at it through a different lens.
Right.
So when I'm seeing something that is between Grove and Puritan, I understand that that's different from between Puritan and Finkel.
Right.
I understand that that's different from between 6 Mile and Outer Drive.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so the question that you have to ask yourself as an investor, and I think this is any state, if you understand, you know, your cities and your zip codes and, you know, things like that. Okay, so if we're talking about how much money we want to spend on a property, we want to spend the least amount of money as possible with the least amount of rehab as possible. And
you factor in risk. Depending on the area.
And so now we look at what's improving.
Right.
So, and you know, I'm gonna pick on Reggie because Shaka not really from the city.
Right.
So I'm gonna say, you know, challenge me if I'm wrong. But if I had to guess, if we have outgrown Grandmont and Rosedale, and we can't get into UAD or Bagley, then now my question is, do I want to be north or south of Pearson?
Right.
You
like that's what Ken was saying when we talking about the land bank and development and all of that. So, you have to go into those other emerging areas, but an out-of-towner will come into that other area with a Grandmont mindset.
Yeah.
Because it's so close. And they're like, oh, well, it's right here. It's within a quarter of a mile. And the comps say this, and the comp, and like, no, fuck them comps.
Yeah.
This is a different neighborhood. It's, in other words, you got to look beyond the numbers. The numbers matter, strategy matters, but there's also a different culture for each neighborhood.
Knowledge, wisdom,
and
of
that's
the area.
why you need boots on the ground. Man.
You got to have your gut ready.
And I feel like Shaka can speak to it when it comes to Pontiac. He's gonna know like all these different. Well, if you're on this part of the freeway, on this street right here, or if you're right here, you know what I'm saying? Like those are the things that I think that everybody needs to know about their town or their state or their cities that they want to invest in. And so when we're talking about, so I want to clarify, right? So we mentioned Rosedale Park, Grandmont subdivision, or like Sherwood Forest. Like these are some of our historically known, like
for Detroiters.
Yeah. No, this is
for Detroiters. Because listen, so I don't agree with you.
You
because
just cut me off. I didn't get a chance to finish what my point was.
Okay.
So every city has their historical neighborhoods, whether that is, or state, whether that's in California, near LA, near Orange County. That's it. Even in Pontiac, you got your historical districts.
Yeah,
different. So but Detroit is too still big. Detroit is damn near its own goddamn state by itself.
Well, no, what she's saying is a lot of cities do have like certain areas that's so unique compared to the rest of the city.
Chicago has it.
And if you don't know that, if you're not from here, you won't know it until you actually come here and see it.
Agreed.
First of all.
Agreed.
So somebody trying to explain it to you that right here is a $15,000 house and 3 blocks over is a $400,000 house. You can't even fathom that, especially if they're in the same zip code.
But I don't know how you can't. So that's where your common sense come in.
But everybody, that's what we say. Everybody don't have that common sense.
And so what I'm saying is,
hold on. Real quick, I'm not trying to cut you off. So for me, Ardmore is clearly better than Stansbury. I'm not from Detroit, but if I'm coming through there, and I had to choose where I'm gonna put my family at, I'm not putting them at Stansbury.
But are you looking at the block itself? Because sometimes you can have a great block and a bad neighborhood.
I'm looking at everything. So Ardmore, there's a hospital down the street. You're right down the street from
the same hospital, by the way.
But it's not. But it's not. This is literally down the street.
I just went there for my hairdresser, which is right there on Tracy. You know which hospital, right?
Yeah, but I know I understand what Shaka is saying.
It ain't nobody
so now you got
out
of drive, true.
Hold on, nobody. No, not just out of drive. Not just out of drive. You got what's that highway there? Is that the Lodge?
Yeah,
the Lodge that cuts in between.
It's right. No, I'm talking about where we talking about Ardmore. We right there. You can walk to the goddamn hospital.
Right.
You can walk to it from Stansbury.
Hell no, you be walking for a minute.
No, but I get what he's saying coming from where he's coming from, right?
Yeah.
So,
but tell him to go over there. So what I'm saying is, so today, my hairdresser is literally on Tracy and Lodge.
Right.
When she was on another client, I went to KFC on Lodge. And 7 Mile.
Oh, 7 Mile. Yeah, okay.
And so from KFC, I'm like, let me go see what my uncle's talking about on Stansbury.
Right.
So I drive, I put it in my GPS, because I'm like, I know I'm right up the street.
Right.
My GPS, 5 minutes.
Right.
If I would have put Ardmore in from there, same thing, it would have been 5 minutes from my location.
But 5 minutes can be a huge difference.
Which way you going, right?
But let me tell you the travel, because remember, you got Outer Drive and Lodge, which is going to put you on a diagonal. So you feel, on Stansbury, you feel like you all the way over here.
Right.
But you're not.
But you
because
do.
Of that diagonal.
But you are in the culture.
You saying in that area, but we're talking about a different area where that 5 minutes is really night and day.
Period.
Right? And out of towner, just looking at strictly numbers and distance and comps, because a lot of out of towners get scammed because pick 48203, right? You go east of Woodward, south of 7 Mile, Cedarhurst, completely different than Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? But I've seen people come to me with a property on Cedarhurst, probably $200,000 renovated, right? They're using comps from Palmer
Yeah, it ain't
Woods.
there yet.
It ain't even the same.
So, but my point
area.
is not that it's not that Stansbury was there.
Right.
It was more so that if we're going to try to find the least expensive property right now, currently,
right,
like, so we can't find another $40,000 house near Ardmore right now.
How much did we pay for Ardmore?
42,000.
How much would Stanberry be?
No, we paid 45 for Ardmore, 42,000 for Stansbury.
But this go back to what Shaka was saying though. This proves his point about strategy. You have a strategy for that property because you're forward thinking about the area, right? Out of towner coming here, they don't really have enough insight, knowledge, or experience to be able to think like that. So they may go even further south and get a raggedier house for less money, or they may get scammed into paying the same amount. And they're thinking, oh, I can use these as a comp, or this is.
But that's what I'm saying. I think you hit the nail right on the head. For me, it's how far south. So anything below or south of Puritan right now, for me, is too far south.
Depending on what your strategy
Winthrop is south of Puritan. Cheyenne is south of Puritan. And them are decent areas. But I'm going to say something. So we could do just basic numbers. And then we don't even, there's no argument here, right? So we paid 45 for Ardmore. And you talking about 42 for Stansbury. And I'm not saying that we're not going to do Stansbury. I'm just saying in general. Ardmore was in way better condition. You could have went and lived in Ardmore as is. You cannot go live in Stansbury as is. You go put the $10,000 that we're talking about putting in Stansbury in Ardmore, shit, you good. You would have been good. You could have lived in it as is. The basement was already finished.
But is that unique to the house, or that had something to do with the areas that you were able to find?
So I'm gonna say both, because when I went over, so again, I'm not from Detroit, so I only go off of. So when I'm going through, I'm looking at it different than her. She's looking at it. So I'm from Pontiac. Right. No, because it matters. Because no, but that is the point. That is the point. So because you can't look at it from your lens. Because that's what I'm getting ready to make. When I'm in Pontiac, Pontiac is a small city. So I'm in the whole city. I feel safe because I'm from Pontiac. Right. But it's certain areas that you go to that you're really not safe. But you feel safe because you feel like you're amongst your people. This is where you're comfortable being, right? And that goes for Pontiac, Flint, Saginaw, all them small cities. Detroit different. Detroit, you go block to fucking block for real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You go to one block and you may be safe. You go over to that next block,
right? But that's how you feel.
No, that's the reality.
But so here's the thing, though, right?
Is that not the reality?
It's the culture.
It go back to, that's one of the mistakes. People don't understand the culture. Because when I ask people, like, so for example, it was a property I seen in Alabama. I'm like, that's $20,000. It's a little small 3-bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It's low maintenance. I can rent this out. Somebody was like, man, ain't nobody paying you more than $450 a month for rent there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Plus what you got to rent it. And he was like, not only are you not going to get no more than $450, you're going to have a hard time finding people that even can afford to live there, that want to move there. So it's like, I'm looking at it. The house look nice. The area look nice because it's mostly land. You know what I'm saying?
That's what you're looking at.
So, yeah. And then when you do the numbers, the investment kind of makes sense. I'm thinking I can get $650 for, especially me coming from Detroit. I can fix this up to make it appealing. So where somebody, and a guy like, can't nobody afford more than that in that area. You know what I'm saying?
No matter how much
so
you do to it.
People have to understand the culture. Like when we say numbers matter, when I buy investment properties, I look at what's the median income for the city first and foremost. Then you break it down in a little sectors. You say, well, is the school still open in that neighborhood? Elementary, middle school, high school, right? If you got all three of those, you're off to a good start. Because now you're going to be able to get people that may or may not have children. Either way, you got that option, right? Versus being limited to a person that say, I don't want to move over there.
Which is rare in Detroit, period, right?
Well, it depends on the neighborhood, right? So then you understand the different cultures of the neighborhood, but people be so fixated on the numbers, and they do matter, but here you can't just rely on just the numbers.
Right.
And that's what
you got to know more. And that's more so what I'm saying. I'm not saying that this is I'm still shaky about it anyway. I'm gonna close on it just because, like, I'm gonna tell you,
she's an aggressive investor.
No, I don't think so. A lot of times, one of the things I tell people all the time, like, I have a panel of people or my people that I talk to for a reason.
Right.
Your experience, Shaka's experience, I'm experienced. I got other people outside of you guys, and I do like to hear. Like the opinions of it, right? And I don't make a lot of moves based on those opinions. And then I find out later, like, it's a move that I should have made, right?
Right.
Especially when we deal in a city and with the progression of it that we're having.
Right.
And so when I'm talking to, let's say, my uncle about this property, who has a lot of rental properties, but he's just a little bit north, but he's got a lot right over here. And, he ride past, he's like, I don't like it, and I wouldn't pay $40,000 for it. And you got $5,000 worth of trees, and you got to replace the roof, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great. But I don't really think I have to replace that roof for... So now I really want to hold it. Don't really know.
Right.
And I'm running the numbers off my same numbers that I ran for the Ardmore house, which were very low.
Right. But he's saying you can't do the same numbers.
What I'm saying
they nowhere near the same.
So it's a brick 3-bedroom bungalow.
Right.
Ardmore had a 1-car garage. This house has no garage.
Right.
For finished basement. The house is about 90 days.
Yeah, we finished the basement. This house used to have a finished basement.
Finished.
Right.
We didn't do nothing to we cleaned up the basement.
But y'all just proved the point, right? Mm-hmm. It's everybody's strategy is going to be different, but y'all got a strategy.
But what I'm trying to say about this particular house is, so if we take property for property and we look at, okay, what do we have available currently that is going to, not cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the investment, but we can probably be in it for under $100,000. So a lot of times I'm looking at it like, I don't want to be in any of these properties more than $100,000. Right. I want to clear $60,000 if I can off of them. And I want to have it for a short amount of time. Or if I want to hold it, I want to be able to be out of it within a very small, like as far as like everything that I've invested, I want to have it returned to me within a few years' time. So now I'm looking at, okay, how much can I get for a 3-bedroom brick house that's between Grove and Puritan? And to me, those numbers are... So
from the rental approach, it makes sense for you?
Possibly.
Mm-hmm. But on a flip, it may not make sense. But that proves another point. Everybody has a different strategy, and it's nothing wrong with each person's strategy. It's just that when a person doesn't have a strategy, and the culture of that neighborhood, you can attract a tenant, right?
Right.
You on average, if you charge too much, you're going to have high turnover. If you charge the right amount, you'll get more long-term tenants for that area. You know that from experience, from understanding the neighborhood. So what I'm saying is, somebody coming from out of town, it's like a blanket all over the city, and then they have they're trying to get, $1,100 over on some random street that no house is paying over $750 for, right? Now, people that can afford $1,100, not even trying to go to that area, and then this person feel like, oh, because I put an extra $20 in and the kitchen got granted, I should be able to get $1,100. Then they have a bad experience. Then they are blaming the whole city. Yeah. So I'm saying that scenario wouldn't have worked nowhere. So people have their expectations too high, and then it's just like buying a stock, right? When you buy a stock, I say usually, you buy a stock because you looked at the earnings report, you looked at their balance sheet, you know what I'm saying? You look at the charts, you look at moving averages.
The good investors.
Yeah. You try to see, am I buying at the all-time highs, or what's the potential that's going? You read a little bit about the company. You look at the CEO. You understand their mindset. You understand how the company is ran. So just like the city, you understand how the city is ran. Are they more in favor of landlords? Are they more in favor of tenants? You know what I'm saying? It's this election year. Who's the new leader of the city going to be, and how does city council and the new leadership feel about rental properties, right? People don't even do that research. But for some reason, they do it other places. But when they come to Detroit, it's like, oh, it's only a $5 stock. So all them numbers don't really matter. It's not a big risk. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking the risk. But then you like, oh, I'm burnt out because you didn't brought 3,000 shares of a $5 stock and you mad because it went wrong. Well, you didn't use your strategy. You didn't do your research.
You didn't have one. You just came in there because it was low, right?
You gambled. Yep. So real estate is nothing to gamble with. I don't care what city you buy in.
Period.
But for some reason, people do it in Detroit.
Yeah.
I got people mad because they're like, well, I've been, I ain't collecting no rent in Detroit and such. I said, where's the property at? Said, the rate you charging, you probably wasn't gonna collect rent anyway. You had maybe a 40% chance of getting a consistent paying tenant at that rate. Did you look on Rentometer or whatever to see what the average was? Did you talk to somebody to see what the average was? Do you even know the income levels for that area?
Did you get you a good real estate professional?
Here you go.
Property manager. You know what I'm saying? Did you talk to a few property managers to say, if a property manager won't manage your property, that's an issue. Right? If you can't,
a good property manager.
If you can't find any property manager and you say what you need for rent and they say, no, that ain't gonna work, they know it's not worth their time.
So this is what I got to say, because this is the biggest mistake that they make. That after you don't have a strategy, the next biggest mistake you make is trying to find the bargain property management company, the bargain realtor, the bargain contractor. Yeah, you about to lose your ass.
Right.
I feel like that property management stuff is not no stuff to play with, because these owners, they're investing a lot. They paying these property management companies.
The contractor too. And your realtor.
Oh, true.
Because all these people are the people that you're counting on. This is your team that you're counting on to,
But I feel like that
decision.
contractor and that property manager is going to be super huge, because they could take so much of your money.
Right.
The realtor can save you so much. So if you deal with a good realtor, they're going to tell you all the issues that you're about to deal with in this area. So stay the fuck away from here. If you listening to me, right? So if I'm your realtor and you're listening to my advice, stay the fuck away from here. The same way that if you have a contractor and they say, dog, this shit gonna take this, how much this costs,
right? And this how long it's gonna take.
You know, you might go find another contractor that's gonna do it less, but you just had a good one that told you what it should cost. So you should think about that. And the same thing for your property manager. Your property manager saying they want to charge you 10%, but you found the property manager that said they're gonna do it for 5%.
I know property managers, it's certain areas they don't even take properties in.
Yeah.
And like when I get investors, I try to connect them with a property manager. I'll sell you the house, but we need to include this person in the process. So the first thing we do, identify the areas, identify the houses you like. We run them across the property manager before you make an offer. So how much are you collecting for rent in this area for this type of home? And how consistent are you collecting? What's the turnover? Because if people moving every 3 months, you're not making no money.
You getting your so as the realtor, I feel like the realtor, I really feel this way. They're the point of contact, the first point of contact for everything. If you got a good realtor that's knowledgeable and they know shit, they know people.
They got resources.
They got resources. So they're going to be able to get you to a lender. They're going to be able to get you to a contractor.
Right.
Reputable ones. Not just anyone. Not the cheapest ones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, I tell investors when they call me, I'm not investor friendly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That you know what you're getting into, right? So, all right, if you get past that, you understand that you want to deal with me, understanding I'm not investor friendly, then we can talk.
Right.
But that's my first thing that I say. Even as a realtor, you know what I'm saying? An investor come in, they say, I got $20,000. I can't do shit with you.
Right.
You can't do shit for $20,000, but go lose all your money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You about to
It's $20,000. Your budget is your acquisition cost. And when you tell somebody that, they be like, well, it depends.
When they think they could get a $1,000 house and put $19,000 into it, and
all
all
the ones
that
don't want to give you a budget at all. I have to tell so many people, like, we can't even have a conversation if I can't get a budget.
You
can't do shit with $20,000.
Because depends is a diaper. It ain't an investment strategy.
Exactly.
Right? So people, like, it's crazy because people just have, like, I understand it because, like, investing in stocks, sometimes I feel that way too. Like I'll see a stock and it might be like $10 and I'm like, oh, and I don't really need to analyze it, and I believe in the company and I believe the company gonna be the next whatever, right? And I'll be like, okay, give me 100 shares. And be like, damn, what I do that for? Then it dropped to $6 a share. Right. Then be like, oh, now you waiting around. Now I'm mad, and I'm staying off my trading platform because I don't want to see it. No, you know what I'm saying?
But you wouldn't care if you had a strategy, because if your strategy was a buy. So when I buy my stock, right? I'm not huge in stock, but when I decide to buy my stock, I buy that shit. I'm buying long term. Yeah, I'm not day trading. Right. I buy that shit and I ain't looking at it no more.
Right. But you buying good, sound, solid companies. Correct. So it's the same way. You can invest in Detroit on your own if you do the research. You come here, and like one of the biggest mistakes people make is, I don't know if y'all get these calls. So let's say today is Thursday. You probably got it. Yeah, I'm looking to buy some properties. I'm gonna be in town this weekend. And I'll be like, dog, if you, first of all,
how much money you got?
Well, one thing is, if you're just not calling people to show you, for one, properties don't just pop up like that. Yeah. You only gonna be able to see a certain few properties that are available to get scheduled. And the more than likely, the person that's able to take you out and fit you in their schedule is probably not the best person. Like, my schedule booked for next week already. So if you call me today saying you're going to be in town tomorrow, but you leaving out tomorrow night, I can't do it. I get them calls every week.
That's the same thing for your contractor, right?
So it's like, why would, if you're not prepared, why are you making this a rush for me? Yeah. So it's like, that's automatically telling me, but the reason I say it's a mistake is because somewhere there's a realtor or a wholesaler, they get that person and be like, yeah, here's 4 deals for you, and these are good deals, and then they sell them on one. Because some people have they have better sales skills than others, right? You gonna buy a house before you get back on that plane. Period. Right? And whether you want it to or not. So it's like, why are you doing it? That's the biggest mistake. You have to be prepared. So part of your strategy is being prepared, analyzing some stuff first. Don't come here day one and just have somebody show you houses. Come here and ride around, look at the neighborhoods, learn the layout of the land, right? I got off the freeway one time. I seen a sign that said Compton, and I was like, oh, this is what Compton look like. You know what I'm saying? That's what I said. But when you in California, you see palm trees, it seems safe everywhere. No, right?
When I went to South LA, and this was before that. I'm like, oh.
I went.
Take me to Dave and Buster and back home.
I went to Tampa one time, and it was like, we was at my friend's house. It was like early morning, nobody outside. And he was like, yeah, you notice the projects. I'm like, where? Because it was nice as hell.
There's not this projects.
No, it was later on, you could tell.
When you're in Florida, but not in L.A.
Well, no, it was parts of L.A. It looked...
Tampa, though.
No, he started with LA.
No, but I'm saying it was parts of LA that looked nice, and somebody was like, it ain't. Because
when I went to LA, and then when we talking about 20 years ago.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, put me back in the car.
Right.
And I'm from Detroit, so.
But you told a story when the guy, the battle rapper, came here from New York. Yeah. Came to Detroit's projects.
Well, he wasn't in the projects. He was in the hood.
Okay.
And he kept telling the guy, he was like, so, something with our culture, especially in rap, we wear the hood on our chest. Like, I'm from this hood, it's grimy. You know what I'm saying? I survived this, I'm from the block. I tell people I'm from the hood, but I ain't hood, right? Period. So that's like, they comparing how rough each other hood is, right? And they both going at it, both of them realize, it's the hood. But old boy was like, man, where I'm from in New York, we live in
the project.
In the projects. We stacked on top of each other. It's rats in our apartment, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, dude, You got a whole fucking house, a whole house
with a yard.
To him, it's not hood like where he's from. So it's all about perception.
Just because the Brewster's been closed down for a long time.
Right.
So I mean, but it is different. So literally, it's different. So if you in Marcy or whatever the projects is that you in New York, that ain't no house. Because it is levels to poverty, too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it really is. That's why the project was the projects.
Right.
Versus the hood being the hood.
True. Definitely. When I was living in the hood, you couldn't pay me to go to the projects.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to go there to get my hair done. Here with the hair done story.
I went to an area, I was in Memphis one time. This nice little area, it looked like Redford or Oak Park. All the little ranch houses, no basement and everything. All the grass green, you know what I'm saying? No cars on the line except a few. And somebody was like, this the hood. Like real hood. Like for real. You could tell when people come. For some reason, I'll be in these hoods in the morning before people wake up. But you could tell. And it was like, but just from the looks of it, it's not. So when people come to Detroit, some of our areas and some of our neighborhoods, you can tell it's the hood. Right off back. But when people come from out of town with an investor mindset, it's like one blanket.
I got a question.
You got to see it.
I got a question though. What area is that? So let me tell y'all something. So me being from not in Detroit, right? So when I first came down to Detroit, period. So you know I've always hung out in Detroit, right? Which is downtown, Jefferson, downtown, Griswold. 8 Mile. You know what I'm saying? You in certain pockets.
I'm so tired of people talking about 8 Mile.
Yeah, but 8 Mile was it. I mean, that's a real thing. That's not fake. That's real, right? Especially if you come from out of town. Right. You get to 8 Mile. You made it to the strip clubs. You made it to the Cody's and shit. You made it to where you want to be at. Or you go to Jefferson. You made it to Belle Isle. You know, you made it to Jefferson. Right. You get downtown. You made it to everything downtown. Right. But when you get into the city... You know, when you first coming from Pontiac, I came to the west side first. Right. So I got comfortable. Grandmont, I think I got lucky, right? I came into Grandmont. What's the other one next to Grandmont? Rosedale Park. Right. You know what I'm saying? Even Brightmoor, though.
Yeah,
you know
I was gonna say, you didn't go there first.
I definitely went
there because you got filled in Cheyenne.
Oh yeah.
Winthrop.
Yeah. Right. So, but hold on. But I knew, I knew that was. So that's what I'm saying. All right, you're right. I didn't go to those first. I went to the mother areas first, and I knew where the fuck I was at. You know what I'm saying? I felt it, right? Right. But that was on the west side. Right. Everything was on the west side. And now when I went to the east side, I'm not from Detroit. Right. But when I crossed over Woodward, going down past, what is that? That's like 8 Mile and Woodward. Once you
7 Mile, State Fair or something like that. Once you go east of Woodward.
You was east of Woodward. I was crossing I just know it was crossing the train track.
Right. He had to be on one of the mile roads.
I feel like I was on 8 Mile.
On 6 Mile, yeah.
I was on 8 Mile. I was on 8 Mile. Mm-hmm. 8 Mile, like going towards Van Dyke. Yeah. And when when I crossed over that area, right, it was like super duper high alert. So I'm already was on high alert.
Yeah,
Hooper.
Yeah, look,
but it depends if you Shane her 8 Mile or you Shane her 6 Mile.
You're talking about Osborne,
right?
No, I'm talking about 8 Mile and 8 Mile.
Osborne.
Yeah, so
or if you like on Runyon or somewhere over there. Period. Now,
but I'm just saying. So that's why I understand. So what I'm saying is, if you come here, so that was my experience, right? So then, but I got friends from from college, right? They is educated, right? Yeah. From the west side and from the east side. I bring my east side friend to the west side in Grandmont. Right. He like, what the fuck you got me in the hood? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is going on over here?
And it depends on what side of the east side. Yeah, yes. Because like, I had friends and everything that stayed like on Lenox and Kercheval, right? Bunch of two families. It's a bunch of vacant lots over there now, right? We used to be in the house, door wide open, overnight, door not locked, overnight.
Where?
On Lenox and Kercheval. Between Dickerson, Connors.
I know exactly where it is.
Right.
That's a cultural thing. We never locked our doors with Pontiac.
Yeah, so it's like some of those areas are older areas. They the hood, but it's like the grandparents still live in these houses.
You talking about closer to like Go Lightly, going toward the water?
Yeah, but north of Jefferson.
Okay.
Right? So like you got some areas where it's old, a lot of older people, they've been there since the 60s or whatever, you know what I'm saying? They migrated from Black Bottom, they went further east or whatever. And the kids all grew up and kind of moved away. And you still got some trouble and some issues, but it's an older area, but it look real hood, right? It look unsafe. But it's just like, no, some of the people just couldn't maintain their properties. They don't have the money like that, right? But everything's neat in place and it's safe. It's safer than if I was on Meringue and Maross, where the houses look nicer or the area looks nicer and more modern, more updated. The house was built later. When I first got into real estate, like 8 Mile and Kelly was the border. And at the time, most of your city employees were staying in the city, and they all stayed at the perimeter, at the border of the city. So like I used to show houses like Carlisle, Edmore over there. It seemed like
pretty back then.
Every time I go over there, it's a police car, and I'm like, damn, my customers be a little nervous. Like, no, that's the neighbor. All the cops and firefighters were staying right in that area. Then when they changed the law, whatever it was, everybody started moving to East Point. But at the time, the culture of that neighborhood, it was completely different.
I kind of feel like they need to bring that back. What do you think about that?
I agree.
I think you should live where you
gotta live where you fucking represent.
Yeah, if you're a firefighter, police officer, you should stay, and a school teacher, you should live in the neighborhood that you protect.
But it is dangerous. More dangerous for them. So I get it from that standpoint. But it would feel better, I feel like, because when we grew up, I grew up in Pontiac, so when I grew up, the police officers knew not only they was from the neighborhood, so they knew your parents, you know what I'm saying? So when they seen you, they knew you. You know what I'm saying? So they could come talk to you and be like, Shaka, what the fuck is you doing? You know, I'm about to go tell your mom. I'm not about to take you to jail. Here, get in this car, I'm going to take you home. I'm about to go tell your mama what you just did. You know what I'm saying?
They used to have, too, like the athletes. Like, I remember, looking at John Sally's house over there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
that was my paper route, Palmer Woods. Was it? In 8th grade. I'm making $60 a week. I thought I was the man.
Killer. Yep. I had a paper route, too.
Yeah.
I did it for like 3 days.
But my paper route, my grandmother took me to get a paper route, because I had one on Parkside from like 7 Mile all the way down to McNichols. And I quit. My grandma
in the middle of it?
Yeah, it was like I had it a couple months. Yeah. And I was like, I don't like this. My grandma said, you ain't gonna be no punk. You gotta start making some money, right? So she went back. We went back to the little paper station or whatever. She said, we need another paper route. He was like, I only got one left. And she was like, come on, you got a new paper route. So that first Saturday, I went, and we was driving. We was living in Palmer Woods at the time. We was driving. I get out. I'm looking at the little sheet, so I was through with the block, and I'm like, okay, cool. This wasn't that bad. She was like, okay, and we turned another block. My paper route was all of Palmer Woods.
Wow.
At the time.
Man.
But yeah, that was
Palmer was my first experience with understanding, like, so my mom used to call them baby mansions.
Yeah.
And I think when John Selly had the house for sale, we went over to an open house. My uncle was thinking about moving
right
in.
By the Fisher Mansion. Yep.
And I think that was my first understanding of like Detroit real estate in terms of like architecture, style.
Right.
Like the capacity in which houses can be created here or have been.
Right.
And I was little.
Yeah.
Like young.
Yeah.
But look, hold on, because
I want to go back to the cop thing too when you say that after.
Do that, but I got something I want to clarify for the public.
Right.
In terms of like, I'm gonna bring it up, but you do.
All right. So with the cop thing, the difference about somebody living in the area, whether they grew up there or not, right? When I see somebody at the corner store and they hanging out, maybe they not dressed, maybe they dirty or whatever the case may be, right? I can tell by, a lot of times you can tell by their movement, how they're talking, if they're talking to themselves. whatever, I can tell if it's maybe somebody may be on drugs. I can tell if it's a wino, or I can tell if it's somebody that just got some type of mental disability, right? There's a difference. Being from the area and seeing it and being around it, you know that, right? Somebody from the outside may just see that person as a danger regardless because of how that person is moving. So I think it is important that people from that area police that area, because now you can tell the difference. And I think it cuts down on a lot of incidents that we have.
So because so when you got a person that lives in Canton, policing Detroit, you scared as shit.
Yeah,
you ain't from that area, right?
Yeah, everything seems like a threat.
So you elevated the entire time. So you shouldn't be here. Right. You're the real threat. Right. The police officer is a threat at this point. You're the person that's scared, and because you scared, you got your gun. That's what scared people do, right? They always had a gun and make sure that they're gonna shoot somebody. So now that's what the police officer is. So yeah, I agree. But on the flip side, if I'm the teacher, so my wife is a teacher, I don't know that I would be comfortable with her living in the area that she taught in. She's a high school teacher. Especially now, and in certain areas. Like if I lived in Detroit and I'm the teacher in Detroit, and I'm dealing with these badass kids, because these kids are bad as fuck right now. Like
not just Detroit, everywhere.
Period.
Yeah,
wherever the fuck
it's different than when we came up.
True.
So wherever area you are, you're teaching in that area. The student don't like your ass, you in danger. Now so when I was in school, my teachers didn't live in Pontiac. They lived in the other areas. So when the kids was mad at them, you wasn't about to go drive out to West Bloomfield to do something to egg their house or toilet paper, because we didn't do shootings like that. You know what I'm saying? It was egg in the house or toilet paper in the house. Some
kiddish stuff.
Some shit to hurt the teacher, right? But now, shit with the shootings,
it's different. I mean, it's pros and cons. I'm not saying necessarily like stay in that neighborhood, because the internet just made everybody more accessible. I'm just saying, really what it is, just be familiar with what it really is, not what you assume it is, because you treat people based on what you think of them, right? And if I assume you are a certain type of way and you're not that way, and I'm not even familiar with people like you, it's going to cause me to react. I don't
understand your culture. So maybe you might be from Pontiac, policing Detroit, and from Detroit, policing Pontiac, because you can, or Flint or whatever, because you can relate to the, like you just said, the individual at the store, and you know that, dog, I was driving down the street with Mike Brown. And there was this dude outside, man, he was punching the goddamn telephone pole. He was out like he was the boxer and shit. For real, he was actually punching it and shit. And so Mike was like, only in Detroit, right? I'm like, bro, I'm like, you from fucking Pontiac, right?
It do be some things.
It'd be a lot of shit.
I see it.
No, look, I was at Buddy's last week or over a week ago, and I'm sitting in the parking lot getting ready to go in. And it's, he probably was special needs, but you could tell he was living on the streets. He probably needed something, but he was like zonked out his mind. I don't think he was high. I think he was just crazy. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, let me just pull off, because he was like walking up to my car, and I'm like, so it's basically like what I've seen a lot of it, you know what I mean? And so in my mind, I'm just rolling my window and I'm gonna pull off and go over here, and as he makes his way on, I'll come back and park my car and go on about my business. But if I was someone else, or like you said, a police officer that's not from the area or from here, is no telling. Because I was scared. You know what I mean?
Because he could still be dangerous.
He could still be dangerous. I don't know what he's gonna do. But if I wasn't used to it or familiar or used to, it could have escalated.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you're the police officer that's from Canton that got authority now, and you see this individual, instead of you walk, because he ain't committed no crime.
No,
he just looks scary. And then so instead of you just fucking either just paying attention. Now you want to escalate the situation and get out the car and go talk shit to him.
Right.
And be disrespectful.
Right.
You know what I mean? And yeah, what the fuck, what you expect? He don't know you either.
Right.
So now when you come disrespect him, you think that because you're the police, he's not going to disrespect you back.
But, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, and that go back to like when we talking about real estate and we talking about people coming here, it's the same thing when you're renting a house to somebody.
Period.
Right? You're assuming people are a certain way because of where they live or what lifestyle they have or their income level, right? Instead of saying, okay, this is what this is like, this is what this person is like, and this is what this area is like, this is the culture of the area, right? So people don't analyze all of that. They just be like, oh, I can get $750 or $900.
I got something to say about that. I learned that in Detroit because when I first came into real estate, I went straight to Pontiac. That's where I was from. That's where I was familiar with.
Right.
So whenever I rented to somebody, I knew somebody that you knew, whether it was a family member, a close friend, or somebody.
Right.
When I came to the city, I don't know you from a can of paint, right? I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. So I have to rely on my understanding or your DISC assessment, you know what I mean, my understanding of people and who they are. Yeah, it's tougher.
Yeah, but people, my problem is investors, people have landlord-tenant issues across the country.
Period.
But when it's Detroit, they like, oh, it's so bad, or I couldn't evict my tenant for a year. Well, a lot of people couldn't evict.
Exactly.
And then think about like areas that have rent control, where you can't charge more than a certain amount in an entire city, right? We don't have that. So it's certain areas, certain cities here that you need to know, okay, like some cities, I don't want to name those cities because I know some of the inspectors, they're hard on landlords for bringing the properties up to code only because when they know the properties are right, they can really hold the tenants accountable.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't do this on the lawn, you can't do this. But if the landlord is slouchy and the tenant is slouchy, it makes it harder.
Yeah, and that also brings property values down when those properties are not held to a standard.
Right. In some cities, they're harder because to be honest, some cities don't want a large tenant population.
Period.
They want
most cities don't. Most cities don't want it.
So it's one of them things, but you have to understand that. And again, people just come here and be like, oh, I'm gonna just buy this. It's $20,000. I'm gonna put a tenant. I'm gonna make this, and it may work. It's a gamble. But what's the strategy? What was your due diligence? How much research did you really do? I know investors that's been owning over 100, 150 houses for years in Detroit, in all markets, up, down, sideways. They have issues, but they have regular landlord-tenant issues. They're not complaining like a lot of the other people because they have strategies that work and they have something that's proven.
It's only a gamble if you didn't plan.
It's only if you gamble if you gamble.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but if you came in there with a game plan and you understood everything you was getting into, it's not a gamble anymore. Now it's you have data to back up what it is you expect.
Right.
Most people don't.
And I will say this: a lot of cities, especially Detroit is not always investor friendly for out-of-state investors. For one, out-of-state investors sometimes, when they call the city departments, they call like with this arrogance, right? Like, well, if y'all did it more like we did it in New York, or if you did it like that's why I don't want it. And when you get enough of that, or the other reason, a lot of our blight come from out-of-state investors that brought these properties in bulk from the tax sale, and this is why the land bank operates the way they do, because people brought so many houses in bulk and left them, and then they went back to the tax rolls, and the city was like, we got to do something about this, because you had all of these people buying these properties, not doing anything to them, or they half-ass fixed them up and became the biggest slumlords that we had. Period. So now the investors that may have a little strategy and may have a little bit of money, they come and they get caught up in the mess for all the ex-landlords that came and burnt it all out.
But if you got a strategy, you should expect that. And then you would have a plan in case you incur that happens to you.
Right.
So I'm coming from you. I've had the worst. I had the worst experiences ever in the city of Detroit on my houses.
Right.
But I'm not mad. I understand what I could have done to prevent those situations.
Right.
You know, because I was fully informed on what happens down here. Like even right now, you know what I mean? Man, we got some more horror stories later on.
Yeah, because right now it's getting ready to be a wrap, and I wanna do a bar breakdown. So for all our T Grizzly fans, since we talking about areas, there's a space where he talks about from Persian to Cody. Now this is a real question. I got it when I was in Las Vegas.
Okay.
What is that from Persian to Cody?
So it's basically going east side to west
exactly.
side, though, right?
So for all our people who are not from here, it's a recognition for the side of the town that you're on. If you are at Persian, you're on the east side. If you're in Cody, you're on the west side.
But see, I had a bar back in the day. I used to say from Telegraph to Maross, right? Because that covers the whole span, border to border.
I think it's obvious though, because people don't when they rap in T Grizzly and he's talking about from Persian to Cody, they like okay, so what's that exactly? And they're schools and they're schools on different sides of the town.
The big schools.
The big schools,
yeah. And you mentioned the schools in general, and specifically the schools, because you can the high schools kind of dictate your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Right. So that was sweet.
I'm gonna give one last story. So my son, we live in Detroit in the suburb.
Right.
Metro.
And so my son's high school was just on lockdown.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Right.
And then that affected. It was only his school.
Right.
It affected the whole damn city.
Yeah.
My other son, who wasn't at that school, was locked down too, and everybody else was locked down. So you're right. That high school shit is real.
Right.
They dictate because they're the older crowd. They dictate.
Really, high schools determine a lot when it comes to the living in the city, the property values, because everybody's looking at the level of education, the rating of the school, and a lot of times it's based on the high school. You know what I'm saying? Well, what kind of because it's the last step before college.
Period.
Right?
Yep.
So, high schools are very important. So, Persian to Cody.
Okay. All right. That's a wrap, guys. Great show. Appreciate you all.